Hey guys, today we're going to look at Steve Reeves' favorite nutritionists, or I should say probably one of his favorite nutritionists. So in the book, Steve Reeves' Hercules Cookbook, and here's my copy signed by Joe Vitale and George Helmer, number 19 of 250. Might go through this another time and get into some of the recipes. Today I want to focus though on a man named Gaylord Hauser. So in this book, Steve is influenced, he talks about being influenced by Gaylord Hauser. Since the 1920s, Gayelord was a pioneer in what he called scientific eating. Hauser found a following among thousands of Americans who wanted to know more about good nutrition and the foods they were eating. He moved to Hollywood, California, and I guess one could say that he had the first Hollywood diet plan. Gaylord Hauser was born Helmut Eugene Benjamin Gaylord Hauser on May 18, 1995 in Germany. He promoted wonder foods, quote-unquote, such as yogurt, brewer's yeast, skim milk, wheat germ, and blackstrap molasses. Now we know Steve used some of this stuff. He used yogurt, he used wheat germ, and I know he drank goat's milk. Hauser suggested that people should avoid such foods as white bread and sugar. We now know that's common sense, but back in the 1920s, people were still learning about nutrition, which was met with great resistance from the manufacturer of those products. Steve underlined many passages in the book Diet Does It, which we will share with you if you have a chance. Locate one of these books for yourself and read the passages. On page 30 of the book, bottom half of the page, Steve underlined the benefits of B vitamins and also underlined B1, B2, B6, niacin, amide, and pantothenic acid. And then on page 31, he underlined foods that contain these vitamins such as liver, wheat germ, brewer's yeast, blackstrap, molasses, grains, nuts, beans, lentils, and peas. And then it goes on to page 35, etc. and so on. Boy, wouldn't it be great to have that book that Steve underlined that stuff in? Well, guess what? We have it right here. Diet Does It by Gaylord Hauser. This was Steve's copy. It's not autographed, but here's another Gaylord Hauser book that is autographed by Steve Reeves. We'll go into this book another time. So there's Steve's autograph, and here is, it's not his autograph, it's actually just a signature showing ownership of this book. So this was a Gaylord Hauser book called Treasury of Secrets. So apparently Steve was a fan of Gaylord Hauser. Now, one more thing before we look at some of those underlinings. This is my copy of Diet Does It. So I have two of them. One was owned by Steve with the yellow card in it, and the other one is owned by me. And so I just bought this before I got the Steve Reeves book. You can see where it looks like something's been gnawing on it, and that was my dog. So this book was left on a nightstand, but that is Gaylord Hauser's signature, and that's what makes this book really special. So once again, this was not Steve's book. This is my book, and this is Steve's book, and you can still find these on eBay. So once again, the name is Diet Does It, Gaylord Hauser. So let's look at some of the underlinings that George Helmer was talking about in Steve Reeves' Hercules Cookbook. So chapter 4, there it is, Vitamins for Vibrant Health. How to obtain all vitamins from natural foods. Now we know that Goldie, Steve's mom, was into nutrition. So Steve really had a head start when it came to healthy eating, but he also took it upon himself to study further, and this is an example of that. So this is Steve's underlining here, wherever you see that, vitamin A. A daily glass of fresh vegetable juice helps to give you that schoolgirl complexion. Well, that sounds kind of funny, but the point is, for clear skin, Gaylord Hauser talks about getting vitamin A. And then over here are some foods that have vitamin A in them. So let's turn the page to page 30. One thing about George Helmer, any book he's written, and this is one of them, and you can still get this as far as I know, he does a lot of research. He tries to be as accurate as he can. Of course, Gaylord Hauser, he died in 1984 and Steve died in 2000, so really all you can do is go by Gaylord's book here and then conversations with Steve. Okay, so continuing on, page 30, the vitamin B family. So we were at vitamin A, now we're going through vitamin B, and these are all of Steve's underlined markings right here. Prevent fatigue, vitamin B2, which helps to keep your skin healthy, and of course we know he was a big fan of keeping his skin healthy. Digestive tract, blackstrap molasses. So I have to say that in my own personal experience, there's a group of authors, and this is one of them. Another one is William Hay, Dr. William Hay, a medical doctor, MD. They have been influential in my education and diet, because even though these guys were preaching diet-related things 100 years ago, just like with weight training, weightlifting, a lot of that stuff still holds true today. You know, we know that deadlifts, pull-ups, bench press, squats always work. Well, some of the fundamentals in this book always work as well. We go into vitamin C, and one of the takeaways that I got that's allowed me to get into recently my best shape is paying attention to food combining. Somewhere in Gaylord Hauser's work and Dr. William Hay's work, if you read up on food combining, it makes perfect sense. But basically, when you combine your proteins and your carbohydrates, they don't do well in your digestive system. And that's where your bloat and digestion problems occur. That's where you get gas and, as I mentioned, bloating. So try it sometime. You know, study these guys, Dr. Gaylord Hauser and Dr. William Hay, and food combining. And I don't mean food combining like combining beans and rice to get a complete protein. I'm talking about separating foods for better absorption and digestion. And, you know, really, that's the first step, is that if the food doesn't get absorbed, digested, it's not going to get utilized. And so that was a real eye-opener to me as I studied Gaylord Hauser's work and Dr. William Hay's work. So then we're into chapter 5, and it goes on, and really, if memory serves correct, that area, pages 27 through 30, is where Steve underlined the most. I guess he was learning about vitamins at that time. So here's a weight gaining menu, you know, and a lot of this stuff holds true. It's milk, yogurt, of course bacon is always a good food. Fascinating to go through this though and see what the advice was in those days. So let's look and see what year this book was written, because we know Steve was born in 1926. Here's other books by Gaylord Hauser. Eat and Grow Beautiful, Dictionary of Foods, Food Science, and Health. And I was looking on Amazon earlier here, and yep, Gaylord Hauser still has got some spices and things like that available for purchase on Amazon. So imagine that. He died in 1984, and here he is 37 years later, still selling stuff. So copyright is 1944. So Steve is born in 1926. That would put him at 18 years old. It makes perfect sense because he competed in his early 20s. So let's look at the table of contents. Diet does it, good food, good health, good looks, normal nutritional regime, vitamins for vibrant health. That's the chapter that he was underlining. So it seemed like he was most interested in that. Minerals, murder in the kitchen, the vital diet, overcoming faulty elimination, eat and become slender. To gain weight, you must gain health. That makes a lot of sense to me. Goodbye to that tired feeling. Now, I'm guessing, chapter 11, that might be where he touches on digestion, because digestion requires energy. And if you eat a big meal, think about Thanksgiving or a big celebration, how do you feel right after eating that big meal? You're usually tired, you know, so you watch the Super Bowl, you ate a bunch of stuff, all of a sudden you see the Pepto-Bismol commercials on TV. Why? Because you got indigestion. So digestion requires a lot of energy that could be used for other things. And so I've really latched onto that philosophy in my own life. I do combine proteins and carbs here and there, like I will have chicken and rice, but I'm really careful throughout the rest of the day. And I know when I look at Steve's diet, for dinner he would usually have meat and salad. So there you go, that would be a perfect example of food combining. I also know he would eat fruit, but he wouldn't mix the fruit with, you know, protein. He would just have fruit by itself. So that would be another case. So, you know, Steve had a really small waist, and if you're not bloated and you don't have indigestion, that's one way to help achieve a small waist. So, could that be the secret? I don't know, but it is interesting, and we do know that age, somewhere, he was 18, that doesn't mean he was reading this book at 18, but somewhere 18, 20, 22, he was reading this book and paying attention to that. So there you go. Gaylord Hauser, Diet Does It. This is Steve's personal copy right here. I don't have his signature in it, but you know, we saw in this book where George and Joe Vitale were the authors that they reference Gaylord Hauser right there and talk about on page 30 of the book, and that's what we just looked at. So I noticed over here, I tried this dish. There are recipes. This is a home prepared meal at the ranch. Now these were later days for Steve. These were not his bodybuilding years, but chicken and rice dinner, his favorite. It's a crock pot meal. You can take a look at that there. And so I made a note, chicken and rice, I made it February 1st. I said this had good flavor, but it was too soggy. So next time, cook the rice and separately add in the rice. Don't cook it all together. And then some other notes there. So I'm making my way through this book slowly but surely. Here's another recipe I tried called tuna casserole. Who didn't like that? So there you can see the ingredients, and then my note over here says 2020 tuna casserole. This was good. The potato chips on top were decadent. It made it seem like a cheap meal. So over here he's got 2 handfuls of potato chips. So this is really highly recommended. There's lots and lots of different recipes. His daily sandwich, you know, I think if you saw my recent video with Pat Henry where he's asked what he eats, you know, Steve says he eats a sandwich pretty much every day for lunch. Of course, he was 68 during that interview, so he wasn't in his bodybuilding prime. But these are the ingredients for that sandwich, I suppose, that he was eating every day. There you go. I'll let you take a peek at that. Alright guys, so I thought you might find that interesting. Steve Reeves' Hercules Cookbook, awesome. The autographed or signed Steve Reeves book by Gaylord Hauser. We'll look at this another day. I wanted to try to stay focused. Gaylord Hauser's Treasury of Secrets. We'll look at that another day. And then the other two copies of Gaylord Hauser's book, Diet Does It. If you have any questions, comments, I'm sure you will. Leave them in the bottom, and I will see you next time, guys.